Well, first of all, thank you for speaking to me today. It's really appreciated.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk about my new project. I've worked so long on it and it's so close to my heart that I could talk for hours. You'll have to kick me off, Katie.
No, because I listened to all 10 episodes and I loved it so much.
Oh my gosh, you're the first person I met who's listened to all of them. So this is
Yeah.
great.
And I will be completely honest. I've never listened to like an audio series before. So this was like completely new for me coming in and I absolutely loved it so
Yay.
much.
Oh my God, that means so much. Wow,
Yeah.
you're the first, Katie.
I'm so happy. So where did the original idea come from for this?
So I wrote this project, and I hate to say this, it was back in 2015. I came up with this idea of this failed chosen one. And at the time, I was kind of searching for a TV show that I could create for myself. And I was so in love with this character and this project that when it didn't sell, I was absolutely devastated. And at the time I was running a company making hundreds of videos a year. And this was like my shining star. It was my next move as a person. And then when it didn't go, I was just kind of paralyzed. And, I did a bunch of other things for years, but it always was in my mind that I wanted to revisit it. So when I got the opportunity to pitch it to Audible and they loved it, it was like a dream come true. We were going to treat it as a TV series. We were going to have a couple writers help me write all 450 pages it ended up being. And then COVID hit. Because I pitched it and started writing it in 2018, 19 really. And COVID hit and I ended up writing the whole thing myself over COVID. And it was like the best thing that ever happened to me. It is definitely a project that's very close to my heart. And it's the story that I would only have dreamt being able to tell that never would have made it to TV because it would have gotten developed in a completely different way. So I just am so excited to be able to have people hear the story that I dreamed about in their ear holes.
Yeah. And what were the challenges of creating an audio only story, if there were any at all?
There were a lot of challenges doing audio. And as a person who has done short form web video and television as an actor and producer and everything, it was definitely a learning curve, but it taught me a lot about storytelling, not only because it was such a big commitment. I mean, I'm pretty well known for The Guild, a web series that I wrote. We did 6 seasons. I believe that Third Eye as a one project is more minutes of material than all 6 seasons of The Guild. So this was a lot to take on. And it's essentially 10-hour-long episodes of television fully performed in audio. And so not only being able to do an arc of a whole season at once and all the character arcs within that story, but also making sure that the audience isn't lost. It required a lot of thought. Every single scene. Is this followable? Does this make sense? Will one sound effect at the top of the scene solve the problem of where they are and what they're doing? Because you don't want anyone to be confused. Like confusion is the death of, enjoyment in a sense. And so, especially with audio, having the narrator played by Neil Gaiman was key, but also being completely fastidious about like sound effects, soundtrack, and dialogue about like characters describing what's going on. And I will give a shout out to Jonah Ray Rodriguez, who I worked with on an acting project, but who was the voice director here. He was a director here, and he really helped that. He has quite an ear, and it really helped, find the unique solutions we needed for every scene and every character to really bring them to life in audio in the best way possible.
Well, I have to say that all the hard work definitely paid off because from start to finish, it was just absolutely amazing. But I think one thing that also enhanced the story is the cast. I mean, the cast is amazing and it's great to recognize so many voices that I've heard in like video games and other shows before. So when writing the story, did you have an idea of who you wanted to voice certain characters? I mean, how did you get all of these group of actors together?
Yeah, so we have Neil Gaiman, Will Wheaton, Sean Astin, London Hughes, Lily Pichu. We have guest stars of Alan Tudyk, Harvey Guillen, Janet Varney is a major character. Weird Al did a cameo for me. And these are almost all of them were just me calling them up and asking them to please do my project. As far as of course, Neil Gaiman was in my ear as far as the narrator goes, but I could never have hoped that he would actually do it. And I can't tell you I've ever received. I can't say that I've ever received a better compliment than me asking Neil to do it. Of course, saying, I totally understand if you don't. And him saying, I want to do this. I'm not doing it as a favor. I do think it's good. And I was like, what? So, of course, that was a dream person in that role. I did, in fact, write the character of Robigus, one of the antagonists in this series, for Will Wheaton, my friend. If you know my previous work, you know that he did a major part in and he's just, I have to tell you, I think he steals every scene he's in, but him with the combination of London Hughes, who is one of the funniest people in the world. And she's actually one person I did not ask personally do it because I didn't know about her. But my friend Jonah I described the character. She needs to be larger than life, a complete, glamorous, kind of self-centered character. And I would love her to be British. And he's like, I know this comic. And I watched 30 seconds of a YouTube video of her stand up. And I was like, sold, offer her the part. Same thing with Lily Pichu. She's a very well-known online personality, but her passion is voiceover. And I watched her stream one time on Twitch because I love Twitch and I love streaming. And when I saw her, I was like, oh my God, it's my dream Kate. I mean, she is the epitome of Kate. So other than that, it's just a lot of asking people to do me favors. That's just my world, I guess. I'll always be favor girl. But at the same time, the production quality and the time that we spent on this 6 months just of post-production, I really hope it shows because everybody involved put their love into this.
Yeah, it definitely does. And also the show has a great sense of humor. And it really lightens up the dark situations, especially in terms of Kate's backstory, which is really tragic and really dark, but there is this humorous aspect to it. So how did you go about balancing the humor and the darker moments of the story?
Well, I started this project from a point where I was depressed and anxious, and I was trying to create this dream character for me. And having this character that is just literally at her lowest point for years, decade, in fact, is, that's a low place to be. And I think there's a sense of, for me, I love comedy, but I want it to mean something, I don't want to just do flippant sketch work. I mean, other people do that much better than me. If you look at the other things I've written, I mean, The Guild is about a girl who's depressed and addicted to video games. For me, this is 10 times darker. And there's a lot of themes in here about she is a failed prodigy. And I did a lot of research on failed prodigies. I did a lot of research on foster kids. And I did a lot of this because I wanted, if you're presenting something, as a whole, I wanted to make it three-dimensional because I don't think you could sustain just jokes for 8 hours, right? Or 7 or 8 hours, however long it ends up being in the end. And so, for me, I want people to love a character. I want them to be able to laugh with them, maybe sometimes laugh at them. But at the same time, when their real stuff comes up, I want people to care about that because life is dark and it's light. And, at my darkest moments, I've definitely told some really inappropriate jokes. So that's the only thing you can hope for is that you make people feel all the things. And that's what I was aiming for.
Yeah. And there's also this really tragic aspect of Laurel and her mother's relationship, which her mother definitely exploits Laurel as this chosen one. And like you said, the failed prodigy aspect to it. Can you touch on how that relationship affects Laurel's journey throughout the series?
Yeah, I mean, I think that she's at a place where she blames herself for everything. And not that she gets to blame other people, but she gets to heal and be able to stand up for herself to herself throughout the piece. And, there's some surprising turns there. The mother character is a complicated character too. And I think, being around Hollywood kids, in my Hollywood time, I think that was probably inspiration, having stage mother kind of aspects to that. But again, I didn't want to just have that be the focus. I wanted to show the nuances. And, I've never been able to tell this long a story before. I've never been able to be let's show the nuances of a character that seems one-dimensional or just funny in episode 1 and really peel back why in episode 7. And so, the puzzle of who Kate is and her background and the puzzle of why Laurel is who she is, why does she fail, why is she stuck? Those are kind of things that get solved with the plot. For me, if a character isn't solving their own problems while the plot is happening, then it's just plot. We're just reading plot. And that's not that interesting to me or And hopefully it'll be a little bit more interesting to the audience when they listen.
Yeah. And one thing that I did not expect coming into the series was how modern so much of it is. I mean, there are so many modern pop culture references. I'm sure so many listeners will catch on to. So which modern elements were you most excited to incorporate into this story?
I will say I did a whole pass taking out pop culture references. So this is like the minimum. And I only kept the ones that I felt would hopefully be okay in 5 years, but also just made me laugh so much I couldn't cut the joke. There are a couple, there's a Property Brothers reference in this. Yeah. There's a Benihana joke that probably is my favorite line in the whole thing. Yes, I didn't want to date the project. I didn't want people to be in 10 years. Who is this? What are they talking about? It might happen, but at the end of the day, I couldn't help but have fun. I mean, I was writing pretty much alone. I did have some friends come in and help me do joke punch-ups and a little cutting and stuff, but I was in the middle of COVID just amusing myself, right? And I'm on this long-term goal. I'm like, I'll see you in 6 months. You'll get some scripts, in 6 months, because I wrote them all and then I rewrote them all and then I rewrote them all and rewrote them all and then I cut 50 pages and I rewrite it. This is like a novel, and I wouldn't even give it to Audible until I was happy. And then they give me amazing notes that help me refine it even more. I just have to give a shout out to Matt, who's the executive over there. He gave me incredible feedback. The first time an executive ever gave me notes I was excited to do. I've been burnt by Hollywood real bad. And I got to say that this experience really restored my faith in, collaborative storytelling a little bit. So, it was a journey, and I could just say that I'm a better person because of it. And I hope that, people know that the attention to detail and any jokes that are in it were hard fought, hard thought over, and hopefully you'll snicker, especially at the Benihana joke. It's my favorite.
Yeah, and Third Eye is a love letter to the fantasy genre and its tropes. And just in general, how do you continue to find fresh and exciting ideas for this genre? Because there are just countless stories that have hit on these tropes over and over again. But Third Eye just makes it so new and refreshing.
I appreciate that so much. I mean, it's somebody who reads like a dozen books a month at least and watches all the shows. And yeah, it's really hard. And I think that's kind of why I got burned out on Hollywood writing, is that you're expected to pitch all the time. I was like, I don't have anything that's new. You don't need to make my story, or I would pitch the story that was really, really different and they would reject it. That's more often what happened. And for me, like, I know that when I get excited about something and genuinely excited for myself as an artist and a writer and a creator, then I kind of arrogantly, quote unquote, know that other people will like it too, or I at least hope. And so this was something, and also I think when you start with a character, I'm not starting with a plot. I'm not starting with a funny log line, right? This is about a character. And so I had such a personal connection to this character that I'm like, even if somebody told another story about a failed chosen one, it would have nothing to do with my story. And so I think that's the lesson. Like, this is a personal story for me. This character's journey is very personal, and therefore it's going to be unique to me. It might not be for everybody, but if it's for some people, it'll be enough, because this character gets herself out of a dark, dark place and goes through a lot of stuff, and in the end is a better person for it. And so hopefully, at least people will want to go on the ride.
And the series does end on this high note, and it wraps up very neatly. But in spite of that, do you have any interest in returning to this world potentially?
I would totally love to return to the world, whether it's, another audio project, comics, TV, their characters. I did leave it, I think it was really important, the mandate, and I totally agree to like end it and feel satisfied. So you're not going to feel like, oh my gosh, but you don't feel like the characters stop at all. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted, the potential for whatever these people, what their lives would be like. Because again, they're living, breathing people to me. And having these amazing characters like my friend Sean Astin or London or Lily or, all of them, they're real and they embody these characters in such a real way. I could think of a scenario in a minute where they're, having a problem with a pizza delivery. These characters would be funny just with that one scene. So long story short, sure. If not, I have other projects that I'm very excited to do, and other stories to tell. And I, just going forward, they need to be as personal and important to me as this one, because I feel I got spoiled I really got to tell the story I needed to tell. And I never want to go back to ever pitching something for the wrong reasons again.
Yeah. Well, whether or not the story continues, I'm looking forward to whatever else you put out there because I'm a fan of your work and I really love this. And I hope a lot of people like catch on to this because it's really a good piece of work.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think an Audible original is something that everybody thinks about a book. And I'm like, well, yeah, you can think of it as a performed book, but you can also think of it as a television series, a season of TV. I think it's one of those things that people start listening. Hopefully they won't stop. And it really means a lot to me to talk to you as the first person outside production who's listened to all 10 episodes. It really thrills me that you love the characters because, thank you for treating me to that today.
Well, thank you for speaking to me. You've been a joy to talk to. And unfortunately, I do have to let you go right now. But
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.